welcome back to this. I'm your host, Shauna Griffiths. And as always, we're going to have a real talk with a real leader today. And before we do, I want to give a quick thank you to our founding partners, CMD Agency, Felicia Hall and Associates, and 628 Digital. We couldn't do it without them, and we really appreciate their support. So, folks, we are going to jump into today's episode. I'm so excited. I've met this incredible woman recently who is in front of us here today, Miss Evelyn Magley. Thank you so much for being with us today, Evelyn.
Oh, Shauna, thank you so much for this opportunity to share our journey and the story of TBL. There's so many people that I want to be able to hear, what we're about. And this is just awesome that you're taking the time to allow me to be able to do this.
Oh, absolutely. It truly is an honor. So, folks, I always give you some context. So I'll start by saying that Evelyn is an incredible pioneering woman. She is the CEO of the Basketball League. If you haven't heard about it, just wait. You're going to hear all about it. It is a men's professional league here in the U.S. that is expanding into Canada. I know Evelyn because her daughter, Jennifer Magley, and I are dear friends. Let me tell you what, everyone in the Magley family is incredible, absolute rock stars. Jennifer, every time I turn around, she's doing something else phenomenal. Jennifer is an athlete, a mom, a wife, an entrepreneur, an author. She is on LinkedIn as your technical recruiter. And if anybody followed her, she is just phenomenal. So that is how I came to know Miss Evelyn. So we talked recently, you talked all sorts of stuff about the business of basketball, sports, and entertainment. I've had the honor of making some introductions to some key people in my world. And so, Miss Evelyn, I would love for you to give the folks a bit of context to what TBL is. So folks, that's the abbreviation of the Basketball League is TBL. So give folks a brief overview of what TBL is and your role as CEO. We're going to go into it in depth a bit more later in the show, but if you can give them that context, so they know kind of where you're coming from and what you're doing on a daily basis.
Okay, so TBL, number one, is a God-given vision of which I don't apologize for. It is a manifestation of a vision that simply uses basketball as a tool to share love to community. From there, the basketball is a professional men's sports league that is broadcast in over 145 countries. That's a showcase league that allows young men to be seen around the world, to be able to have more opportunities to build and grow in the arena of basketball. We are the third professional basketball league in America behind the NBA and the G League, without being actually affiliated with them. And we've just grown throughout the years as a community asset in each community that we're located in. So the Basketball League itself is a community asset that uses its platform to allow the community to come in and create memories for themselves, to use it as an opportunity to showcase their community around the world and show the love that they have for one another on the court and off. It's kind of it. As far as for me, I basically set the direction for the league, and then I follow, the day-to-day operations of making everything, crossing those T's and dotting the I's and making certain that things work to their fullest.
Thank you so much for sharing that. So this is also a bit of a family affair, right? So you are in partnership with your husband, who is the president of the league. So tell us a little bit about him and what it's like working with your husband on your team.
Well, my husband, what can I say? He is absolutely amazing, and he's my soulmate. We've been married for 46 years, my goodness. And we work hand in hand in this community outreach to make certain that the foundation is laid for each one of the teams that are in the league. And we work together to be able to build and grow and make partnerships within communities and help our team market owners to be successful in what they do in having a team.
Yeah. And I'm so folks, David Magley played in the NBA. Is that right, Miss Evelyn?
Yes, he played in the NBA. We both attended the University of Kansas, Rock Chalk Jayhawks KU. Got to throw that in there. And from there, he played, was drafted the 24th pick, and played with the Cleveland Cavaliers. And from there, he ended up going and playing over in Europe. For a while over in Madrid, Spain. We lived in Belgium for a while. And he's traveled around the world playing. From there, he came back and played on a CBA team, which is named the Albany Patroons. Ironically, that team is in the basketball league as one of the 44 plus teams that we have. So he played with the Albany Patroons. And then from there, we started our family. He took on a job, went into business, worked with Fortune 500 companies with his degrees in business administration and psychology, and built several businesses. And one they actually sold to the Royal Bank of Scotland. So he's got an extensive background in business. Although he was Mr. Basketball, Indiana, which I understand now is a pretty big honor. He's worked on the court
That's
and off the
huge.
court. Yeah, yeah. He's when I met him,
Yeah.
he said,
Well,
I'm Mr. Basketball. I'm like, what is that? I don't know. I'm from Kansas, but I hear it's really big. I didn't know I'm from Kansas. So where basketball was
he said,
actually.
I'm Mr. Basketball. And you said, well, I'm Miss Evelyn.
Yes, I'm Miss Evelyn and I'm from Kansas. And I do believe there's a guy named Naismith that came from Canada that created this game called basketball, which was implemented there at the University of Kansas. Hello, Dean Naismith. That's what I knew.
I love it. I mean, I bet it helps so much, that combination of the two of you bringing all you have to the business, to the athletes, to the staff. And I bet there's an element, because he understands so much what it's like to be an athlete, to play like that. So I think it's great, the way you have come together. So you were kind enough to give us a bit of a look into what TBL is and his background. So let's talk about your background, because you have been in this role for, I believe, about 6 years. The league's been around.
Yes.
I was going to say, you were in this role for the last 6 years and you've grown the league, but you did a lot beforehand. And I know you have a lot of experience in your background in teaching. And so give people an understanding of your evolution. We talk so much about evolving at our careers and our ourselves on this show. So how'd you get from there, wherever there was, to where you're at today?
Well, actually, it goes way back, and I won't be too detailed because there's a lot of details to my life that may or may not, be prevalent to be shared right now in this moment. But it really started with my parents, Shauna. It started with the way they raised me in understanding that anything that you have and anything that you do it to your fullest. My parents set an example for me of connecting with the community at the church that I attended, St. Paul AME Zion Church. They were over the youth, and they had different functions that they put together to make certain that those youth were exposed to education and life in general. So they put together plays, and we went horseback riding. Back in the day when we were not allowed to go into certain places as African Americans, they would always make certain that they set and put something together for young people to be able to go and experience it. So we would go, the horseback riding, we'd go to the fair, which back in the day they had colored people stay, and we'd go in and be able to see and experience things that were beyond our normal world. My mother was one of one in the first graduating class from the University of Kansas of nurses that were African American, were in that class that graduated out. So she was a paradigm breaker. She broke through what at that time were glass ceilings to be in that first class and set an example and mentor me and guide me. My father was the head of the inhalation therapy department for the Veterans Administration Hospital. And so they showed me through their lives how to lead, how to break paradigms, how to reach out to community and build into other people's lives. So that's my foundation, comes from my parents, the legacy that they've given me and shown me how to seed into people's lives. From there, growing up, I was exposed to different things in my life because of my parents wanting me to have opportunities. I took from the Conservatory of Music. I played the violin, was one of the first African Americans to play in the Kansas City Youth Symphony back in the day, and played first violin. And from there, I was introduced to community through being in dance lessons and everything that builds you and builds your self-esteem. And so sometimes these are a lot of details, but it really is the root of who I am. It's learning how to build. And from there, of course, going on to higher education and getting 2 degrees from the University of Kansas, one in music education and one in music therapy. From there, having children, and I ran my Fortune 500 company, was called Magley Incorporated, was my family. I ran it like it was a business, and I had everything in 15-minute increments, and my days were around my family and building into my children to make certain, of course, to build that legacy of them having opportunities so that they can have choices in their lives, things that they can choose to do from because they've been exposed and understand how the world functions. I know it's a lot, Shawnee, but it's
No. I am so glad that you're sharing this with the audience, but also me. I mean, folks, so I mentioned her daughter, Jennifer, earlier. As I'm listening to this, I'm like, everything makes more sense to me. It was like just the foundation that you talked about that, was a part of your upbringing and who you are and how that set you on a course of being pioneering. And I was thinking of us preparing for our conversation, and there's something I noted in you that I note in Jennifer, where it's like nothing stops you. And I mean that in the best of ways, because it is that pioneering element of finding ways to win. And I can see, as you're saying, that it came from your foundation, it came from your mother and all the pioneering things she did as an African American woman. And it also makes a lot of sense to me why Jennifer made it so clear to me that how proud she is of what you have done. And she said to me, Shauna, she is the first African American woman who's owned and operated a league of this manner in the United States. I mean, that's phenomenal. And I wanted to talk to you about that. And, just that experience and that dynamic. And I was in the eye of professional basketball for 13-ish years. And so at that time it was like 10 years ago when that phase of my life was happening. But even then it was very white male dominated. And so I would love for you to talk about kind of that experience that you've had, leading in the environment that you're in. And are you seeing progress or some lack thereof?
Well, here it goes back to my parents. They seeded into me as a person. And so I didn't really see myself as just being an African American woman. I saw myself as being a person that had opportunities. And my father never allowed me to come home and say, well, I didn't get that because I'm black or he never allowed that. He said, listen, if you use that as an excuse, you will never have anything in life. You have got to work as hard as you can and prove yourself to yourself. Other people don't control your destiny. And then when you understand that above all, I'm placed here on this earth for purpose through my creator, there's nothing that can stop me. Not a color, if my hair is not right, or if I'm too tall or too short, or how much I weigh. There is nothing that can stop my purpose. And when you understand that, you don't have to move in fear of your life. You don't have to move in fear that, oh, what if I don't get the job? What if they don't like me? It's really about, what are you here on this earth for? And what is your purpose? And when you know your purpose and you have a passion for it, and you know that that's what you've been placed here for, then what can stop you? Because if God be for me, who can be against me? And I know that's not politically correct, but I have to say, for me, that's my thought process. So with the God-given vision, and then I instill in my children, nothing can stop you. Everything in this journey is set forth to help you get to the destiny that I've been placed here for. So haters, hate. If you don't like it, okay. But what does that have to do with me? I've got to stay focused, like a laser focus, because I only have so much time on this earth, and I don't have time to be worried about what Sally and Joe and Susie and Mo have to say. I have to focus and get done what I've been sent here to do. Sorry, but that's the truth.
And that is why show is all about real talk, real leaders, being authentic, standing in your strength and owning who you are and what you're doing. And so I'm so glad that you shared that. And as you said earlier, like, there's nothing to be apologetic for. You're not apologetic for what drives you. And it's also so authentic in your life, but also in the business of TBL, from what I know. So you actually have this same purpose and passion that it seems like was instilled in you, that you've worked to instill in your family. That's also something that you bring to the business and the players, as you said, on and off the court. I know, so talk about that, because that's all about the impact you're making, right? Is on the evolution of those players, your staff, the community. So can you talk a bit about whether it's the programs you have or how you bring that to life in TBL?
Well, it's really about people. It's the passion comes from, and maybe that's the part of me of the teacher being. I didn't get to share that I taught for over 13 years music. I have a primary and secondary. I have a degree in music, and I taught for years. And part of that, I think, that's in you when you're a teacher is you see, at least for me, when I am working with students, I see all of their potential. And it's up to me to be able to see that potential and then help be a guide along their way in their journey to get them to where they need to be in life. So if they don't see their own potential, I can see it. And then I'm just kind of lighting putting a little fire there to it to bring it forth and make it, kind of manifest in the world. So with the basketball league, it's the same idea. You have basketball is really what these young men have a passion for. And so you're using basketball as a tool to, number one, get their attention. And the basketball is what they really desire. But what I see in them is so much more. They're more than just an athlete. They're a person. And the basketball league, what we want to do is show them that there's so much more. Give them life skills and help them to be able to develop as a person so that when they go out into this world, they see themselves for being more than just that person on the court. Because so many times people just see them as an athlete, as though they're some type of robotic creature that's on this court that's just running and then off the court. Who are they? And so I want them to know that I see them as being a person, that we have in the basketball league life skills that we teach. We have financial literacy so that they can learn how to be financially sound in every dollar and penny that they get so that they can build a legacy for their family. They can build a legacy for their children, and not just athletically, but financially, so that they can function in this world that they have to function in once they leave that court.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And when we spoke the first time, you were talking to me about some of the results that you've had with the league on their lives. And so, which I think is, it's so great to hear. And I say that partly because, as I shared with you, I was a part of the start of what was the D League, which is now the G League. And it was started on the foundation of creating opportunity and growth and advancement for the players on the court, the staff in the front office, the referees, everybody who touched it, even the brands that wanted to get in as sponsors, they could get in that regional, local level, and it kind of like graduate to a bigger scale if that was fitting. So can you share with the audience a bit of the impact, the success stories that you've had? I think it was pretty awesome when you were telling me about it.
Well, we are broadcast, Shauna, in over 145 countries. And what that does, that opens the door to allow these young men opportunities to be seen. There are two things that they need for their career in basketball. They need stats and they need footage. And so what we do is we provide a level of play that is at a standard that meets an expectation of what a pro should be playing at. For example, if Mrs. Magley can score 100 points in the first quarter of a game, she's amazing. 100 points the first quarter of a game against 5-year-olds. Doesn't mean so much. Okay. No. So what we have to have is a standard of play that allows them to be seen playing at a high level. And so you're going to see a level of play that is throughout the league that has standards where people understand and know the game. They understand what they're doing so that the young men, when they're seen, people know, wow. People that know basketball say, wow, they're actually playing a real game here. It's not just people just coming in off the street playing, but these young men are being coached by excellent coaches. They're being showcased and seen around the world. And now I can look at them statistically because numbers don't lie. And I can see their stats and how they're doing throughout the league and what their level is, statistically speaking. And they're playing against prime players. So our players are coming from every level that you can imagine. We have some NBA players, we have G League players that have played in the G League, we have NAIA Division One, we have some players that may not have attended college at all, but maybe their SATs weren't high enough, so they weren't able to uh, see or compete on that level because their grades academically, they were not able to participate. So what we do is we open up that door for them to be able to be seen at a high enough level that now when people see them, the opportunities come to them. And then on top of that, we're teaching them to understand what it means to be a pro, because there is a psychological part of the game, a mental aspect of the game that you must understand when you're going to be a pro. And so we give them that education to prepare them for going to that next level when they enter it in. So to answer that question, our stats from 2021, I can tell you our stats and our data is coming in for 2022. But in 2021, we had, out of 29 teams that year, we had over 160 young men out of 300 that were given opportunities to play at a higher level in other countries. We had 15 that were called up by the G League that next going into the G League season to play on G League teams. And we had 3 overall that have been gone through TBL and are now playing in the NBA, of which one of the most recent is Lindy Waters, who played with Enid Outlaws, Native American young man, just amazing on the court, off the court, just understands what it means to be a pro, paid his dues, and is now has been playing with the Oklahoma City Thunder. So those stats on that are showing that what we are wanting to accomplish is really manifesting itself in the lives of the young men that are playing in this league, and we're excited about that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I'm so excited to hear that. And you also, when I was looking into on your site, I noticed that you've got one of the, I don't even know what to call him, in Ronnie Nunn and the referee. Like, he is a
Yes.
legend in
Yes.
refereeing in the NBA extended family. And so he's a part of your team. And so I point that out because, to your point, what you're putting into this, the level of play and staff that you have involved really are top notch.
Yes, Ronnie is amazing. He comes with such expertise and knowledge that you really can't even put a dollar amount on that. He understands the game. Had been a former player himself. He went from the ranks of being a player into being a referee because an opportunity was given to him to take the skills from being on the court as a player and then utilizing and learning the game and seeing it from another dimension as a referee. And from there, he went on, of course, to be one of the heads in the NBA over the Referee Association, and has so much experience and knowledge to input into the lives of these young men and our referees to show them and help them to have opportunities. And I will tell you, Shauna, um, that we have referees that have moved from TBL and are now referees on higher levels as the G League, and some also in the NBA. So, yes, all eyes are on TBL for being a development and showcase league for not just the players, but also for referees. So, we absolutely love having Ronnie involved, and he makes certain that we cross our T's and dot our I's when especially
That's
on the
awesome.
referees.
I have such a warm place in my heart for him. I know his daughter, Ilana. And that's how I knew him. And then I knew him in the NBA family. And so when I saw him, I got all on the screen on your website, I got all warm and fuzzy about it. I was like, so many of my favorite people coming together. So this is such a great, I think, eye into what the league is, what you're doing, who's involved in it. And because we have a lot of people in the audience that are in the industry, some representing agencies, some representing brands, can you give us a look into how you work with brand partners and how we should be thinking? Sorry, Petey had to join the call, everyone.
He said,
can you give us an idea of how we
hey,
should
for
be
the
thinking
sponsors.
We're talking about how TBL is, such a great proposition for brands. And so just at the poignant moment when Petey decided to say, hey, sponsors,
Sponsors.
I'd love, Evelyn, if you can share with people how should people who are listening think about the opportunity for brands that TBL represents?
Well, I will tell you, I'm so glad that you brought this up. We're working right now on a presentation for looking for those national sponsors. As you know, people have been watching TBL, and now we're going into our 5th year as the basketball league, and our 6th year if you count the league that I acquired previous to TBL. But what we're doing is we're compiling our data because people want to know, right, what is the return? How many people, how many eyes are watching you, and what are you doing that would make me want to co-brand with you? And I would say we're perfect for national sponsors because our teams, we're different. We are what would be considered a community asset. We are bringing in a level of professional basketball that has a reciprocal relationship that's giving to the community. We're not out there saying, hey, we need money, we want a sponsorship. No, we're saying this is the platform that we have. We go into schools. Our young men are ambassadors. They're learning how to be professionals. We're not all there, and none of us are completely there, even in our own lives individually, but we're building into the lives of the young men and into the communities that these teams are located in. We are grassroots basketball, boots on concrete, out in the community, actively working day to day. We work with nonprofit organizations. We work with youth clubs. We do basketball clinics. We work with Habitat for Humanity. Whatever that community needs is what that team is there doing. They're bringing in streams of revenue into communities that are really hurting, Shauna. I mean, COVID, sometimes when you go through some communities, it almost looks like a ghost town because people stopped the movement. They had to close down cafes and restaurants because people weren't coming in and eating. And we're bringing life to communities. So we're bringing in people from outside of communities. When you have a Kokomo Bobcat versus the Lebanon leprechauns, and those communities emerge on one another, they're bringing in hundreds of people into that community that would have never maybe even driven through there during the week. That means that people are stopping there to eat in restaurants. They're stopping and getting gas. They're staying in the hotels. They're going to the mom and pop shops to go buy things that are in that community from people that may have never even entered therein. So a brand that understands what a community asset is, that our players aren't perfect, but neither are our communities, but that we're working together to be able to help one another, to build businesses, to impact lives, for these young men to speak into the lives of the young people that are there. You can't put a dollar amount on there. I can give you an example. I went to a game in Jamestown, Shauna, and this one really broke me because sometimes I run into all different types of people across this great country that we have, the United States, and sometimes you never know exactly how you're going to be approached concerning the league and the players, and different things that people think. And I had a gentleman come up to me and he said, "I hear you're the CEO of this basketball thing here." And I'm like, "Oh boy, what should I say? Because I don't know where this is going, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah,
Say, I'm not sure why.
So I'm like, actually, yes, I am. How can I help?" He goes, "Well, I just want you to know I don't like basketball." I'm like, "Okay." He said, "Yeah, never did. Never did like it. But you see, I'm here at this game tonight." And I'm like, "Okay, that's great. Thanks for coming on." He goes, "I want to tell you why." I said, "Okay." He said, "Do you have a second?" "Oh, yes, sir, I have a second." He said, "Well, you see right out there, see that?" The game was over. "You see that young man walking right over there? That's my grandson." And we thought a couple of weeks ago, we thought we were going to lose him. We thought we were going to lose him. He was going inward. He didn't want to talk with anybody. He was going inward, and he wasn't talking to anybody, and he looked like he was all depressed, and we didn't know what we're going to do with him. And he went to some basketball clinic thing that they had at a school. And you see that there player right over there. I think his name is Bernard Edwards. He said he was at the basketball clinic with these Jamestown Jackals, and he told my son, "You're special, and you got a lot to do with your life, and you can learn how to do this, and let me show you how to do the handles on the basketball." He said, and from that day forward, I got my grandson back. And I'm sorry I get emotional, but that impact on that young man's life just by somebody that he looks up to. Now, mind you, he has family all around him, but they weren't able to connect with him. But this young man's passion for basketball allowed him the opportunity to meet with one of the players. The player didn't even know. He didn't know this was going on in this child's life. He just spoke light into his life, told him that he was somebody. And that man turned to me and said, "That's why I'm at this basketball game. It's not because I like basketball, but because of what's happening on that court has impacted my grandchild's life. And I will always be at every game." So you can't, Shauna, put a dollar amount on that. And I know it sounds emotional, but I have 1,000 stories like that. Because sometimes those young men have to see and know their worth and their value. And when we can show them that they can utilize that to build into communities, not only does it build into the lives of those young people and the people that they're working with, but it also builds that young man to see his worth, that he is here for a purpose. And I'm telling you, Shauna, it's bigger than basketball. So when we're going into schools and we're talking to these young people and we're having clinics and we've got young people that are out there that are delivering groceries in communities to the elderly that can't get out because of COVID, et cetera, or maybe they just aren't able to get out, and they're going out and working within those communities. That is value. Value is not always equate money, but a corporation that understands the value of life, that understands the value of building a community asset with ambassadors that are going out and doing more than just playing basketball on the court, I would think they'd be breaking their necks to come in and co-brand, as they say, with the basketball league. It's more than just basketball, Shauna. It's more than just going out and saying, we need a sponsorship because we need money. No, that community needs us, and we need to bring that community together. And we're actually doing that through basketball. It's a lot there. Sorry,
I
I get
don't
a
know
little
anybody who
passionate.
could tell a more compelling. No, this great, but this is what it's all about, right? This is what the platform's all
Yes.
about: is being real, being authentic. It's about impact. It's this is why I built the brand, because
Yes.
if my feeling, and I believe it resonates with what something you talked about earlier, is like, we have a relatively short time on this earth, and if we are not doing something to positively impact the greater good, then what in the heck are we doing here? And
Exactly.
so, I love the way you talk about that. You have, and as you said earlier, I'm just going to pause and repeat it for everybody who's listening. There are 44 teams in these markets, like Miss Evelyn was talking
Mhm.
about, that are
Mhm.
creating that impact in the community at that grassroots level. And there's an expansion into Canada. So if you're listening to
Mhm.
this and you're like, wow, that was moving, and either my brand or a brand that I know would want to be a part of that, would want to spread their brand and touch points and impact communities and people at that level, definitely reach out to Evelyn and explore what this league could do
Oh,
for that brand.
well, Shauna,
I really love. Go ahead. Go ahead.
if I may interject here, I'm sorry. It's just
No, please.
I really want people to understand that the basketball league, yes, it is a brand, but what I'm showing and I'm trying to teach the young men is your life is your brand. It's not TBL. This is not la 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 fake, 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 fake. No, this has to be much deeper than just putting on putting your makeup on your hair and turning to the left and adjusting your collar and this is the brand. Your brand is your life. This goes beyond the basketball league. This has to be something that's internalized, that's inside of you, that now goes out and makes a difference in the world every day beyond the basketball league. But it has to start somewhere, and that's what we want to do, is start it with the basketball league and then leave that for those young men to build their own legacies with their brand, which is their life.
Absolutely. Thank you for putting the exclamation on that. It has been such a joy to speak with you today, to hear your story, the Basketball League story, and all the impact you're making. And I'm a basketball head, I'm a basketball heart from my own journey. And, I've always wanted, part of my journey was giving back to the sport that gave me so much. So I have just such a true appreciation of what you're doing on so many levels. So before we end this, I like to try to wrap up every episode, because we cover so many things in the episode. I like to try to cover a question of, if there's one or two takeaways that you want the audience who have spent their time with us today and listen, if there's one or two takeaways that you want to make sure that they have or remember, what would those be?
Um, Knowing that the basketball league is it's a place that's for you and your family. It's entertainment that involves communities, that gives you the availability to be able to go there and even afford to. It's affordable to go to our games. It In some games it costs even less than going to a movie, and you can go and make memories with your families and see a high level of professional basketball right there in your community. For those that are looking to have something of this nature in their community, they can always reach out to us at Evelyn at thebasketballleague.net, Our website is www.thebasketballleague.net. And, for those that are into social media, you can follow us and see and learn more about the league and our players. But if you're interested in being a part of something that's bigger than just basketball, that's there to really seed into the lives of not only the players, the coaches, but also communities, um, reach out and look and see. We're really real and we do exist. And we'd love to have you as a part of TBL family. So I'm excited about this and just want to tell you, Shauna, thank you so much for allowing me the opportunity to share my heart and the passion of what this league is doing across the United States and now up and into Canada. I just want to thank you for this opportunity. This means the world to me.
Oh, I'm so glad. And I truly feel honored. I'm a big fan of you and what you're doing. And so you're stuck with me just like your daughter is.
You're a great person to be stuck with, but we're not stuck with you. You're part of the family now, Shauna. You are TBL family.
I love that. I will wear that with honor. So thank you so much, Evelyn. Have an amazing day. Folks, thank you so much for spending your time with us. Have an awesome day. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.